Are we live? Okay. I'm not sure. Right. I'm assuming that we're live. Hi everyone. Welcome to this presentation on voice cloning and anti-AI research. Just a bit about myself. I'm Leona. I'm a third year computer science student currently at the University of Cambridge, and I'm specializing in ethics and AI. So yeah, you can see me right over there. Not the chicken. That chicken's just a cute chicken I found in Portugal when I was traveling. Right. So to start with, let's talk about the problem. So you're all people that are interested in audio dramas and podcasts, and some of you might be creators. Like, I think quite a lot of you would be aware of how much AI is being misused right now with a lot of um, different ways, like mostly just stealing data to train kind of AI models without consent. And obviously, voice cloning without consent is a big problem because, first of all, you've got this is like a big security threat. It can be used in scams, fraud, and even to like override certain security systems. And what we care about most here probably is that it really harms creative communities because not only does it is it like a threat to a lot of people's livelihood, it's also basically like a very easy way for people to exploit and steal your artistic kind of identity, which is not talked about enough, I feel like. Yeah. So another thing that makes it even bigger of a problem is that currently voice cloning technology has mostly gone into the zero shot realm. So when we say zero shot AI models, that means basically you are able to clone a voice without any prior training. You just stick a MP3 in, and the AI can clone that voice like just immediately. It used to be the case before that you have to kind of get the AI model, and then you kind of have to like um, modify it to your needs and give it more training data to be able to voice clone. But what we have now is that a lot of voice cloning models, they are zero shot. So basically, it's like very, very low effort for an attacker, a malicious hacker, or a potential like exploitative employer to just clone your voice without you knowing, without compensating you, and it would be very low cost for them. So that's a huge problem. But instead of dwelling on that, we should think about how we should fight back. Wait, sorry. um, yeah, so just so you're aware, these are a few examples of popular kind of speech synthesis or audio synthesis platforms out there right now that are AI based. There are a lot more of them. All of these are zero shot. And yeah. So in order to understand how we could fight back, we should probably first have a slight understanding of how voice cloning works. And it always starts with some sort of pre-processing. Basically, you stick in an MP3 with the voice. It doesn't have to be an MP3, an audio file, basically. An audio file with the voice that you want to clone. And the AI model, before doing anything with it, will do some basic pre-processing, like trimming away the silence, resampling, things like that. And usually they turn this audio into a form of data called a mouse spectrogram is basically kind of transforming the audio file into a time against frequency graph to help with processing this audio file. So then once they have this sort of standard format, they will actually have what we call a speaker encoder. This can come in many forms. There are different architectures, different technologies, and it's a whole other topic that I can do another presentation about. But basically, what happens is this program called a speaker encoder will extract data from the audio that is considered important to the voice. So we call these embeddings or features that are then used to kind of define that voice that is trying to clone. What happens then is you will have ultimately a sentence or a separate like text that you want to have the AI speak sort of in that voice. You can give it you can usually give this in the form of just a text kind of document or just an existing audio file with someone speaking. And what happens is that we will take that text or the basically if you give an audio file, you will just extract the content and then remove the voice related data and replace that with the embeddings of the speaker whose voice you want to clone. So it's a kind of if you imagine it as voice and content being two building blocks to an audio, you basically just take one out and put another piece in that you have extracted from a reference clip. So currently the main idea that people have in terms of defense against voice cloning or a lot of generative AI related risk is that we sort of attack them on the encoding stage. So what we do is we add some noise to the kind of audio files that you post onto the internet, so that if someone tries to take that audio file to do voice cloning without your consent, they will the noise that we've added will disrupt the AI such that it extract the wrong embeddings. That is the kind of basic idea of what we try to do when we talk about using technology to defend against unauthorized voice cloning. So this is also called adversarial perturbation, and there's been quite a few examples of this kind of tool. One famous one would be Glaze, which is a tool for helping graphic artists defend themselves against style mimicry. You might have heard of it. It's pretty big with some creative communities. It's got its strengths and weaknesses, of course. And another one that is already done is called anti-fake. So anti-fake is, well, a tool for preventing voice cloning, but it's more concerned with sort of security risks. So as you can see in this graph here, so let's say we have an indie voice actor and that's the victim. So instead of just posting the audio as is, we use anti-fake to add some noise to it before you post it onto any public platforms and expose it to a potential attacker. So the attacker will then take this kind of altered sort of audio and stick it into the AI model, trying to get it to say things that you never said before. But instead of getting your voice, it will get some noisy, uh, really bad version of your voice that doesn't sound too much like you because of the added noise. And that's the kind of like aim that we're trying to do here. We want to make sure that if someone is taking your voice and trying to clone your voice without your consent, they don't get your voice. So while there's some uh, positive results coming from this sort of methods, it does have several big weaknesses. One of it is that this kind of adversarial perturbation, this kind of protection through adding noise, it really relies on a lot of uh, kind of computational power, because essentially what you're doing is that you're doing exactly what the AI is doing, trying to extract an embedding, and then you extract the embedding and you kind of calculate uh, how much you can get it to deviate from the original embedding through adding noise. So you have to do that quite a lot to actually like get to a reasonable amount of deviation. And that means that you take a lot of computational power. So for example, if you take a normal zero shot model out there, then maybe you would be able to clone a voice within like 10 seconds. But if you want to use the same kind of the adversarial perturbation method to protect against voice cloning, you will have to do several hundred times this sort of calculation to be able to defend against this small little attack that uh, basically anyone can do very easily nowadays. So then it makes it unrealistic to do on a normal computer. And it also isn't the best at defending against many different models. Usually, if you're trying to defend against a specific AI model, it's actually really effective. But when you're trying to get to a more diverse set of different AI models, because well, you're not gonna know what a malicious actor is gonna use to clone your voice. So then it makes it a little less effective if you don't really know what the attacker is gonna use to clone your voice. So these two, I would say, are the main weaknesses of this method, both of which are we can do something about, basically. In terms of resource consumption, if you run it on a GPU, a graphics card, instead of a normal CPU, it can run like 100 times faster, though it is unrealistic to expect basically indie creators to have really good graphics cards, really good GPUs all the time. So then one of the methods I think would be good for making this more accessible would be that to host this kind of perturbation tool on the internet via like some remote GPU services, which tends to be quite affordable actually. Yeah, so then you can just access it via the internet, and it wouldn't be as expensive as getting an entire GPU, which are hundreds of pounds. And yeah, in terms of trying to defend against a bigger diversity of different models, this is something that is ongoing research. We have an idea of how to do this. I will not go into the detail of this, but basically, when you're trying to extract the embedding and compare it to and trying to deviate it as much. You can actually use multiple different encoders to do this and try to deviate all of them together, and obviously then you get this huge like you have a lot of algebra going on, you have a big optimization problem. So yeah, it really makes the whole system a lot more complex the more you try to defend against a bigger range of AI models. So yeah, we're still trying to figure out a better way to do that, but obviously this is not perfect, and yeah, we are trying. So, just a little quick snapshot about my current research project. So I'm currently trying to replicate the results of anti-fake, and by making an adversarial protection tool against voice cloning, mostly aimed for indie voice actors. So that's got a slightly different sort of requirements compared to if your main concern is security. One of it being that if you're concerned with security, you would probably be willing to have a little more perceptible noise in your audio data. Whereas for online creators, it is less likely that they would be happy with perceptible noise in their data. I mean, even the audience wouldn't be happy with hearing noisy audio dramas, right? So then there's a kind of slightly different trade-off going on there. So my tool will have adjustable perturbation levels, which if you look at this little this little graph here, you can see that these are some different perturbation levels, the top one being the lowest, and the kind of colors are just kind of results that I've got from a survey that you might have seen in the PBC recently. So most basically this big chunk of blue here means that most people are happy with this level of noise in their content or the content they're listening to. So I'm seeing some positive result so far with even the lowest perturbation, which most people are happy with. So I am looking forward to trying to make this effective enough to be usable by everyone. And yeah, we will have an evaluation of effectiveness going on starting around next week. And I would really love it if you guys can take part and provide some feedback. Anyone can help. I just need a lot more data. And if you have a healthy pair of ears, you will be able to support my research. So yeah. Anyway, on the topic of unauthorized voice cloning, basically the technical sort of defense is not your only option. Collective action is still like really, really important here. So don't stop talking about it. You know, it is an important issue. We can see SAG-AFTRA voice actors striking in the America, like basically directly because of this risk of AI. It's definitely a big deal. Do not stop talking about it. But yeah, there are some positive things happening around the world as well. The EU AI Act that basically got through recently has a few clauses about how AI models will now have to fully disclose their source of training data, and that would make it much harder for them to just directly steal data without consent through social media platforms and whatnot. And there's also an ongoing kind of court case in the US where it's called the Anderson versus Stability AI case. So it's basically a class act against Stability AI, an AI company with a very uh, prominent image generation tool called Stable Diffusion. And yeah, basically they are suing Stability AI because again, they've been using artists' data to train their models without consent or even any like information. Like a lot of them don't even know until the entire model is out and they found out. Right. So yeah, there are a lot of people fighting back, and we need to keep fighting back. Um, and the most important thing I feel like is that we need to change the narrative around AI because AI, they are just a huge probability calculator, if you might. It's it's a really great tool, but it is that is what it is. It's a tool, and we need to treat it as such. It can be really, really beneficial for creatives, and we shouldn't treat it as this. I mean, we shouldn't treat the technology as an enemy, but how people are using it is wrong currently, and we should not stop talking about it. And we should really start talking about how we can use AI in a way that benefits creatives. A great example would be the Into the Spider-Verse franchise using a machine learning model to help them do menial tasks like lining to actually like help them focus more on the creative process and deal with all the focus more on composition and kind of perspective, things like that. And those are all things that can really help artists and creatives really like minimize the kind of menial tasks in their creative process and uh, focus more on their vision and everything. So yeah, we should really be thinking about how AI can be used correctly instead, and to keep talking about how AI is currently being misused. This is not what it's being used for now. Is not widening accessibility to creative work. It is, quite frankly, exploitation on people who were already doing this sort of creative work. And yeah, there are ways that we can make things more accessible without exploitation. And we need you guys to keep talking about it, to have a continuous conversation between people making the technology and the stakeholders like you. So yeah, um, thank you very much for uh, watching my presentation. Um, Feel free to ask questions and everything. But if you're interested in my research and want to support my research, feel free to join my Discord server with the QR code here. And yeah, you will be updated about my project, and you will have access to the kind of evaluation process and yeah, help provide some feedback about my tool. Right, so looking through the questions. Um, so, right, so we have a question about computational power, how we can reduce computational power. Yes, from what I'm seeing, at least from my research, it's they are um, okay, so basically you need a lot of iterations of basically extracting the embedding and checking how much it's deviated from the original. And one way you can kind of reduce the computational power needed would be to minimize the amount of iterations. So people designing these tools, they should really analyze their kind of tool really like carefully to make sure they use the minimal amount of iterations needed for a good enough protection, and make that sort of less computationally expensive. But as I've said, even then, using a GPU is the best option. What It will drastically reduce the time needed. They are much better at handling things that have a lot of repetition. Basically, graphic cards are just really good at that. So, uh, what I'm looking to what I'm looking into with my project is that I'm gonna set up something to actually allow anyone to just go to a website, start a remote GPU, and then use a web interface to kind of then process their audio data. So something like that. Obviously, remote GPUs still require money, but that's like 20 cents per hour. So given that if you only need around a minute or two for like maybe a 30 seconds audio, then you can scale that up to maybe if you have um 20 minutes audio file that would run for around an hour, and that would still just be 20 cents. It would be much more affordable even at high computational power. And yeah, so in terms of perturbation level, so someone asked how it interacts with audio that has fuzz already. So podcasts are designed to sound like radio. So I will say that would help, because then in that sense, we have a lot more leeway in terms of adding perturbation without making it sound off. So it would not remove the noise, because if the noise is intended and it's like it's designed to sound like radio, it will continue to sound like radio. But basically, I would say that if it's already designed to sound like radio, then like it's also less likely to be used in training sort of voice cloning models in the first place, because when people are trying to train for a voice clone, they usually look for clean audio files. So yeah, but still, obviously, like using a tool like this would still uh, help protect your voice, and you're welcome to use it. I don't think it will, at least from what I've seen so far, I don't think it'll have any negative impact on your audio, and it will actually probably give us more leeway in terms of adding more noise to protect your data. So, a more general one about what drew me to this field of research. And yeah, so basically, um, I'm I'm the kind of person who kind of lurks a lot in creative spaces, like fan art spaces, like or like mostly, yeah, fan art spaces. I I started in this area from like kind of graphic art. When Glaze came out, it was very interesting to me. And yeah, I started looking into voice cloning because I'm personally a huge anime enjoyer. And uh, I know how much voice acting actually adds to this, like, sort of art form, if you may. Like, voice acting is an art of its own, and it does not deserve to be treated as, well, something that a robot can replace. Like, these are all things that we do enjoy, and things that connect human to human, and really shouldn't be something that AI is seeking to replace. Yeah, so I do think that a lot of indie creators, indie creatives, deserve a lot more support and help in protecting themselves against AI bros. And obviously, there should be a lot more conversation around here. And I really, as a computer science student, hope to go into ethics and AI, so that like I can kind of bridge the gap between people who are experiencing social issues resulting from technology, and also kind of bridge that gap between people who are experiencing these social issues and people who are making the technology, because I really see a huge gap there. There's a huge disconnect between the people who make the technology and what they think are issues they should solve, but what and they don't necessarily understand what the real issues are. So yeah, hopefully I can keep advancing in this field and I can keep contributing to y'all's well-being, I guess. Yeah, I think that's about time. But again, like my email is right there. If you'd like to contact me, please do. And yeah, uh, obviously, I'm still an undergraduate student. I'm not the expert here, but I'm really happy to talk to anyone about this field. And feel free to DM me on my Discord channel as well. Um, and yeah, hope I see lots of you joining the server and hope lots of you can take part and support my evaluation next week. Yeah, I guess. See you guys.